Welcome to Capitalize Your Finances, the podcast that's your ultimate guide to mastering personal finances and unlocking the secrets of entrepreneurship. Each week, we dive into the world of personal finance and business development and have fascinating conversations with industry experts, seasoned entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who share their insights, strategies, and stories to help you get ahead in life. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur looking to scale your business or someone just starting out on your financial path, this podcast is your go-to resource for inspiration and actionable insights.
Welcome back to Capitalize Your Finances. As always, I am your host, Christopher A. Poniotu, certified financial planning professional, the Cap and Capitalize. And today's free tidbit of advice is understand your return on invested capital. Now, for those of you that are not in the world of investing, you're probably going, what in the world does that even mean? A return on invested capital simply means for every dollar that you put back in your business, you understand what you are getting in a return on your investment. You see, if you put down $50,000 in your business and it takes 3 years to get your money back, that's a 33% return on your money. If you take $50,000 and it takes 2 years to get your money back, that is a 50% return on your money. 1 year, 100% return on your money. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is understanding what your return on invested capital is once you crack that code, whether it's in investing or your return on invested capital in whatever venture you do in your life, whether it's financially or just personally, you will go above and beyond everyone else out there. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, it actually ties in perfectly to today's guest, who I was so fortunate to interview, Amanda Terry Hamm. Not Amanda Hamm, the murderer, Amanda Terry Hamm. If you Google, there's a big difference. So Amanda Terry Hamm and I had an amazing conversation about how her and her husband, also named Chris, winner of a name, went from zero to making over $1 million in their business with margins that you would be stunned at. And now they're opening more and more and more businesses, in their case, mixed martial arts studios, and their return on invested capital, they can get all of their money back in 3 months. That's right, 3 months. Do the return on investment with that. So without further ado, I cannot wait for you to listen in to today's episode with Amanda Terry Hamm. And if you are interested in learning how to run any business, this is the episode for you. I wanted to talk to you about your business journey. A lot of your followers obviously know you for your book, which we will tease at the very end. But I actually want to go back to the very beginning for you. What were conversations like in your family regarding like business and finance, or were there any?
Growing up?
Yeah.
We had minor conversations, but we didn't talk a lot about it. I grew up military. My dad was military my entire life.
Okay.
And so we moved every couple years. We were mostly focused on, surviving as a family and staying together as a family. So we talked about finances a little bit and how important it was to save money, but we didn't really talk about financials specifically.
Okay.
I do remember that my dad was always pushing us to read more, and he always suggested that we read more financial books and things of that nature. Yeah. So I think most of the knowledge that I gained over time came more from reading books. And
Sure. Was he an officer or enlisted, or where was?
So my dad is a helicopter pilot.
Okay.
And he was in the warrant officer training program. And so he started off, I guess it's rare to go from high school to flight school.
Sure.
But he did that. He got into the warrant officer training program, and then he stayed in that my whole life. He retired as a CW5.
Oh, wow.
So.
Okay. Well, and the reason why I was asking is we have a number of fans that are both active and retired. And clearly there's a different mentality between enlisted and officer. However, one thing I've recognized just through, the years of whether it's the show or just researching the psychology of money, it's a lot of the enlisted family members that I don't want to say they force financial literacy upon their kids, but let's face it, it's a much tougher life living as an enlisted service man or woman as opposed to an officer. And so that's why I was asking. But to be a helicopter pilot, I mean, you cannot be an academic slouch, if you will.
Right. Well, and I think my dad had a lot of drive, and I think I got a lot of that from him.
Yes.
He was always, there's no such thing as an excuse. You either do or you don't.
Yes.
And he was very much the military dad. Yes.
Well, and you know what? Did that have a lot of inspiration for you? Because you started, and we're going to get into this in a moment, but you and your husband, also named Chris, spelled the right way, CHRIS, started and still run a successful martial arts company, right?
Correct.
And so, for you guys, when you got married, were you always set on, hey, we are going to start a business, or was that just not even an afterthought when you locked it in?
To be honest, it kind of started as a hobby and turned into a business by accident. Interesting.
Okay. Now, who was more interested in martial arts? Was it you or Chris?
Definitely my husband.
Okay. Well, and you know what? Again, with the military background, I don't know. Maybe it was just part of the christening of your family where your dad just said, hey, do you have any siblings?
I do. I have 2 younger siblings.
Right. So here's the thing. It could have been like, hey, the 3 of you just go at it, and whoever wins, wins, right? And so, the inspiration, so what inspired you and Chris then to start the martial arts studio?
So he was always into martial arts. He started when he was about 6 years old, and he felt like it really helped him through a difficult time in his life. I started martial arts in college because I was in a difficult relationship, and I realized that I needed to learn how to defend myself. So we met when I went into this martial arts class.
Oh, interesting.
And
what type of martial arts?
Taekwondo.
Okay, because our recorder today, Zach, is actually, I think, a triple black belt in judo. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so if you guys, decide to come at me, I mean, he'll break your neck 6 ways to Sunday. So that's a joke. He will not do that. But okay, so Taekwondo, and so keep going. I apologize.
Well, so we met, and we started dating, and he wanted to start teaching martial arts at the local community center. And so I kind of helped him with that, and it just kept growing. And we got married. We had our first kid, and this thing that started out as a hobby, we outgrew the community center, and so we had to get our own off-site location. We grew out of that after 8 months and had to get a new location, and then we stayed in that location for about 5 years, and then have just grown since then. Now we're about to open our 3rd location.
Yes. Well, and I'll tell you, you're painting this really rosy picture, but I actually want to take our listeners back to the start, because you guys actually had a pretty rough start to entrepreneurialism, and really walk us through in detail and dive into the details for our listeners. What were those first couple of years like running this business?
So to start off with, like I said, we started it more as a hobby, as something that we were doing on the side, and I never intended to put everything I had into it. So I was going to college, and I had another full-time job, and we were doing this. My husband had another job as well, and he was taking college classes. What year was this? This was, we officially started the business in 2010.
Okay. All right. So literally like right as the Great Recession the dust was settling.
Right. My daughter was born in 2009. And so that's when we officially decided to make it a business. And we had been, like I said, going out of the community center, kind of making it a hobby for a little over a year at that point. And so we finally decided to, make it a full-time thing.
Sure.
And when we made that decision, we really had no idea what we were doing business-wise. We didn't know how to make money. We we insisted we were never going to offer contracts. We were never going to do any of the sleazy business things that other businesses do. Unfortunately, we made that decision without really knowing how business should run. And so we thought that we were making the right choices, but we really ended up putting ourselves behind. And so it was a few years after that where we both realized we were using our money from our full-time jobs to fund our business, and we had to make a choice. We couldn't afford to have an apartment and keep the business.
Yes.
So we made the choice together to go ahead and get rid of the apartment and move into the back of our business.
Yeah.
And with at the time, our 2-year-old.
Oh my gosh. So what was in the back? Because it really, and it was within a community center, correct? So I'm assuming the main part of the center was where the martial arts took place. So when you were living in this back, like what consisted of that?
So this was actually, we had already moved to a larger location, and it was essentially a giant warehouse that we had painted and put mats on the ground and set it up with mirrors and things to make it look really nice in the front.
Sure.
But then the back had like this old kitchen that nobody ever used, and then there was a storage unit or storage room in the back that was, I'd say probably about 500 square feet.
Whew.
So what we did was we built some temporary walls so that when we opened the door, you couldn't see what was behind that temporary wall. And so it just looked like one of our offices. And then we put all of our furniture and everything, our bed, our toddler's bed, everything was behind that temporary wall. And yeah, we lived there for about 6 months.
Wow. And okay, so at the time, so how old is your little girl?
Now she's about to be 15.
Now she's 15, but at the time she's what then?
She's 2.
She's 2. And because we have a 14-month-old at home. So you're hopefully sleeping a little bit more, but then as you're getting out of that sleep deprivation, then this all lands on you.
Right.
So did you guys have that moment where you didn't think it was going to work?
Yes, we did. Like we kept going for a couple more years. We were able to, we were reading books and watching YouTube videos and trying to learn about this whole business thing.
Yeah.
But we finally got to a point a couple years later where we were like, we're just not breaking even. We need to learn we need to find out what we don't know, because this isn't working the way that we had hoped it would. Yeah. So at that point, we had a friend who was another school owner, and he mentioned the Martial Arts Super Show, and said awesome. That there were a lot of martial arts school owners that went to this Super Show, and we were subscribed to Black Belt Magazine at the time, and they had mentioned the Super Show that was in Las Vegas. And so our friend had said, there's a lot of really successful martial arts school owners here, and they teach classes and things. You guys should go. And so we made the decision we were going to go to this conference, and we had a conversation beforehand. And I was like, okay, this is our last-ditch effort. Like, if this doesn't work, I need your word that we're going to shut this down.
Yes. And how many years in are you at this point?
I think we were about 5 years in.
Holy smokes. Yeah. Well, because a lot of entrepreneurs that we've studied or interviewed, they normally get to like the 2-year mark and go, oh, is this in or out? So after 5 years, and I just want to reiterate, because a lot of our listeners are very entrepreneurial minded. Of course, personal finance, investing, all that fun stuff, but that comes after. And so many people think that running a business, it's sunshine and rainbows, and the dark days are quick.
Oh, no.
No, not even close. So 5 years, you and Chris are into this. You basically have this come to Jesus of, hey, if this show does not give us something to move the needle, we're done. Now, I don't want to dwell on the negatives, but did you know what you wanted to do if it didn't go your way?
Well, we had both started working for the school district for a little while before this. I had left the school district to be there more for my daughter and to put my full-time effort into the school. So it had grown enough that we finally had our own apartment again, but we weren't making enough to do much more than that.
Yeah.
And then this was also, we had just had our second child.
Oh, my God.
She was, I think, 9 months old whenever we went to the Super Show in Vegas. And so we had both decided, okay, if we have to shut this thing down, then that means we are going to go get normal, regular jobs.
Yep, whatever that means.
Yep, and we're going to focus on building our family and give up on this martial arts thing. And I think the hard thing with that is because we really, truly believed in what we were doing. We were seeing kids' lives changed every day because of the program that we had built. And we built the program by hand. My husband, he based a lot of it off of Junri Taekwondo, but then he also incorporated his own beliefs. And then I built the Tiny Tiger program, which is the 3- and 4-year-olds. I built that by hand based on what I wanted my children to learn at that age. And so we were seeing other kids and other families who were really benefiting from this program that we built. And it was something we really didn't want to shut it down.
Yeah.
We had kid after kid that would come to us afterwards and say, I was bullied in school before I came to you guys, and now I have so much more confidence. Or parents who said, our child didn't know how to focus in school. They were getting bad grades. But after coming to your classes, they learned how to focus better, and they were able to do so much better in school. And so we had this passion that we didn't want to give up on. And I joke sometimes that we were too stubborn to quit when we probably should have. But we finally did get to this point where we realized we're not making enough to keep going and grow our family and be secure in our family. So we're going to go to this conference in Las Vegas and see if there's anything we can learn there, and then we'll make our decision from there. So we packed up, we bought a cooler, and we packed up granola bars and
Gatorade and all that fun
shakes,
stuff. Yeah,
breakfast shakes.
Yes.
And ramen noodles.
Of course.
We got a cheap dollar store or Dollar General coffee pot,
okay,
so that we could cook the ramen noodles in the coffee pot.
Oh man, this is entrepreneurialism 101. This is hardcore. Yeah, no, keep going.
And we had a friend go with us who was one of our instructors.
Okay.
And so we drove from Texas to Las Vegas. It was an 18-hour drive, and we all took turns driving through.
Yeah.
And then we stayed at a hotel that was just off the strip, so it was not as expensive as the hotel that the conference was at, but we could walk to the conference every day.
What was the hotel, by the way?
To be honest, I don't remember. I remember that the actual conference was at the Venetian.
Okay. Well, because I just know when you get off the strip and you're staying at some of these hotels, they can get pretty sketchy. So I was just curious.
Yeah, I honestly do not remember the name of the hotel.
That's okay. That's okay. So you get there, and then, because obviously you're still in business. So was that the moment, was that trip the trip that changed you forever?
It really was. That was the trip that let us know that, first of all, there are people who are making a living off of this business that all of our friends and family had told us, you can't make a living off of martial arts. You can't, martial arts schools aren't profitable. And we got to see firsthand that wasn't true, that whenever you understand business principles, when you understand how to run a business, you can make almost anything profitable. But
yes,
it takes determination, and it takes understanding what that means. So when we got there, the people running the conference actually had a coaching program for martial arts school owners, And they did this special deal that apparently, I didn't know this. They had never done it before, and they've never done it since. But they did this special deal when we were there, and we went ahead and jumped on it.
Okay.
And we said, if this doesn't work, then we're giving up. Well, we're 10 years later.
Yeah, yeah. And are you just opening your third, or you have just opened your third studio?
Our third location will be opening in May.
Okay. Oh, man. So right around the corner. So by the time this recording comes out in April or May, it will be opened. So,
yes, it should be.
So what were the biggest things that you took away from this conference that helped you in the business world?
One of the biggest things was that the way you think about money makes a big difference in how you handle that money. And there are lots of different ways to succeed. There's never just one way to succeed. There are tons of different avenues, different things that you can do to find the way that works for you. And so following just one person's advice, or even following people's advice who have never run a business before, they think they know what it looks like, but they really don't.
Yes. Well, and so for you specifically, let's dive into that, because that's fascinating to me, and I know our listeners are going to love that. So going into it, what was your initial thought process when it comes to money? And then how did your mind change after the fact?
So money mindset is a really close to the heart topic for me, because we both started out with a very scarcity-based mindset. When we first started our business, we kept our prices super low because we didn't want it to be too expensive for anybody in the community. We didn't know how to save back any money, and we were constantly sabotaging our own financial success.
Yeah.
After going to this conference and meeting other successful business owners and just kind of being around those kinds of people, our mindsets started to shift. And then we started reading more money-centric books instead of just business-centric books. We started really working on our own mindsets to pull away from that scarcity and really push more towards the abundance mindset when it comes to money. And so this was a big journey for both of us. And it's a journey we're still
It never ends.
on. It never does.
No.
Because the mindset we had 10 years ago would definitely not have served us today. And the mindset we have today is probably not going to serve us for what we want to be 10 years from now.
Sure,
so
sure.
we're going to have to continue to evolve and grow.
Yeah.
But I would say the stark difference between the two is that now we truly believe that the money that we have, we know how to use it more wisely, and money will continue to come to us. Instead of being afraid that we're going to constantly run out of money, we know how to bring more in. Yes.
Do you have, so the afraid aspect of it? So in a way, and you struck this nerve, so I have to ask it. So I don't care who I've interviewed that has started and has ran a successful business. There's always in the back of most business owners' minds, it's different once you sell and you got liquidity and all that, but in the back of people's minds, and I'm going to even use myself as an example, I always have that feeling of like August 2017 when I almost didn't. I mean, it was almost done. Like we're talking $11, our listeners know this, $11.14. I was in the meeting. If I did not close the client, like Betty would have been gone. A lot of things would, like I would have had to start over. Sometimes I still have that feeling. All right. Now we're worth at least $12 today. Okay. We've moved up. Okay. But do you still catch yourself in that mindset, not constantly, but that mindset of, I still have that feeling of being homeless, living behind the first studio? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It never goes. Does it go away for you? Because it hasn't for me.
It doesn't go away, but it does. I would say it takes a little bit of discipline to like turn it around and say that's not my reality anymore. Also, you've probably heard people say money is energy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Lots of people have said that. And I love that phrase, but unfortunately for me, like when I first heard it, I was like, I don't understand what that means. How do I put that into practice, right? Well, when you learn how to take that idea and put it into practice and make it something that really makes sense, it takes a lot of that fear away. So do I have a minute to do like a little demonstration?
You can do it.
Okay.
Yes, you can totally do it. Now, for those of you that are just listening in, she's not doing a magic trick. She is she's pulling out $150,000 from her wallet. No, I'm totally kidding. So, okay, so you've got $1.
I'm pulling out a dollar bill.
Okay.
And we're going to do a little exercise together with this dollar. And this has helped me a lot over the years, because I think a lot of us, when we think about money and we think about people who are wealthy, we have this idea in our heads, and especially Americans in general, we have this picture in our heads of the Warren Buffetts and the Elon Musks and these guys who are like basically Scrooge McDuck.
Yes.
And they're sitting on their pile of coins and they're making their money and they're just sitting on it and hoarding it, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's not actually how money works. When you say money is energy, money grows when it moves. So if these people were sitting on their pile of cash, then they wouldn't be able to grow it, right?
Right.
So we're going to take this dollar. I mean, we agree this is $1, right?
Yes.
How much is this worth?
It is $1.
Okay.
Yeah.
So every time you touch this dollar, I want you to count.
Okay.
Okay? And so I'm going to buy something from you. I'm going to buy that pen from you.
Okay. So that's 1.
So you hold up 1 because now you have the dollar.
Okay.
I started, so I'm starting with 1.
Okay.
You have 1.
Okay.
Okay? And now you're going to pass it back to me for some kind of
good.
Yes, some kind of good, service, something. So now I've had it twice.
Okay.
All right. Now I'm going to buy something from you. I'm going to buy the time.
Okay. Right. Boom. So now I have 2, you have 2.
Okay. And you're going to buy something from me.
I'm buying that water bottle.
All
or
right.
the Stanley Cup, which is not a sponsor, but we would love to have you as a sponsor, Stanley Cup. Okay. So here you go.
All right. So now I've had it 3 times. We're going to do this one more time. I'm going to buy the headphones from you.
They're great headphones. 3.
Right. And then one more.
Yeah, so you can get your money back, right? I am going to buy, I'm going to buy your book.
All right. Fantastic.
It's more than $1, but yeah.
All right. So this $1 bill, we agreed this $1 bill is still worth $1, correct?
Correct.
But how many times did we use it?
Right, we used it 7 times.
7. I got it 4 times total. You got it 3 times total. So this $1 became $7.
Right.
It grew because we moved it back and forth.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Interesting.
And so people who have money, it's not that they're sitting on it. It's that they have learned the art of continually moving that money in their favor.
Yes.
So this $1 that seems like, scarcity says this is $1.
Right.
But someone with an abundance mindset regarding money says, how many times can I move this dollar to make it grow?
Yes.
And so if you know how to do that, if you know how to make the dollar move, then it can be an infinite number of dollars.
Capitalizers, this episode is sponsored by the best-selling book, Capitalize Your Finances, the how-to framework that takes you from compoundingly clueless to monetarily magnificent. Regardless of where you're at in your financial life, whether you're just beginning to express interest and commitment to your personal finances, at the pinnacle of your career, winding down into retirement, or thinking about your legacy for future generations, this book walks you through every step of the way so you can succeed on your terms and with your own values and passions guiding you. After reading this book, you will officially have Christopher A. Panayotou, the Cap in Capitalize, in your back pocket, guiding you in detail through every step of the way so that you can take charge of your finances, not the other way around. Head on over to Amazon.com today and start capitalizing your finances to the fullest with this incredible book, Capitalize Your Finances, the how-to financial framework that takes you from compoundingly clueless to monetarily magnificent. And now, back to the episode.
Interesting. Well, and it definitely falls in line with the whole concept of it takes money to make money. And then, of course, in our framework, you throw in some interest rates that you're trying to earn, and then it just starts to really snowball, compound, et cetera. That is fascinating. So did they teach you a lot of that at this conference?
They didn't teach that specifically, but they do have some mindset things that they go over. And that was how I learned about how I look at money, and because I have grown up with anxiety. I am diagnosed anxiety, and so I needed to find a way, how do I cope with the fact that we could tomorrow lose all of our money? We could get sued in a martial arts school. What if we were to get sued?
Yeah.
Would we be okay?
But then all the tactics to break their neck, and then you're out of it, right? So
I don't think it really works that way, unfortunately.
Yeah. Don't try it. You did not hear it on this show first, okay? No, but that's interesting. And so once you understood those concepts, whether it was exactly what we just went through or even just a teaser, is that when you started to understand how to price your services accordingly, and then that's when advertising started to come in, or was that much later when you fine-tuned it?
We actually learned that because we were told to change our prices by our mentor.
Okay.
And I can honestly say we argued with him for probably a year and a half, and we would move our prices just a little bit. And there's this statistic that they say every time you change your prices, at least in the martial arts industry, you're going to lose about 10 to 15% of your students every time you move up your price. We didn't lose any. And every time we moved up our prices, we didn't lose any students. And he kept telling us this because, A, your price was already way too low. But second of all, because the service you're offering was always worth more. Yeah. And we couldn't see that because we had this scarcity mindset. We didn't understand. But every time we did that and everybody stayed, and the little bit of pushback we got, we really just had to sit down with them and explain, what was going on. We didn't start to get pushback until we became the most expensive school in our area.
Sure.
And that has now become a point of pride because we're the ones that take care of our staff members better. Our managers, full-time managers, have retirement benefits and medical benefits and all of these things that we've been able to offer them now because we stopped being the cheapest in town and we rose our prices and our value of our school so that we could offer more.
Yeah. Well, there's a concept we've talked about in previous shows, how there's three types of people. There's poor, rich, and wealthy. And the poor concept is, and you know what? Most of us start at that ground zero where you're scrapping, just trying to figure out how to run a business and all of that. But then a lot of people get locked into that mindset. It doesn't necessarily mean you don't have a lot of money. It's the scarcity, like you were saying. And then the rich mindset, you can have all of this money, but you still have a lot of the same mentalities of the poor. But it can also be, it can almost be toxic. But then the wealthy understand the relationship and the quality aspect of it. And it does not matter the price that you provide to your students in this case. The quality is always going to be worth more than whatever price you put out because people understand the value of the relationship. And I'm just thankful that you've caught on to that because most people don't. And it's really sad. It's really sad. And so once you understood that you guys weren't going to go basically broke, because how long did it take for you to start to and listeners that are just listening in and not watching, I'm showing the compounding trend upward. How long did that take to really start to break even? Was it 6 years, 7 years?
It took, for us, it probably took about 5 years.
Okay, so right after this conference is when things turned.
Yeah, well, 5 years from the conference. So
Okay.
when I'm saying, so that would have been in business for a little over 10 years.
Holy smokes. That is so wild. I mean, you know what, though? I am so impressed by that because a decade. I mean, even if you say you live to 100, I mean, that's 10% of someone's life. And, you know, most people would have easily given up on that. And so when you guys finally were clawing out of that, what were some of the steps that you made to make sure that you didn't go backwards?
Well, we had to learn how to keep track of our finances. We had to learn what KPIs were really important for the martial arts business. That's something we never paid attention to before. And there's lots of things that come up with that, but also understanding our expenses and what expenses were necessary, versus which ones were vanity expenses versus which ones were actually going to help the business grow. I can honestly say we have made so many mistakes. I would venture almost every mistake in the book.
Yeah. Most business owners do, you know. That's why you are who you are, though.
One of the best things we did, though, is we had a coach and a mentor who would talk us through it. And whenever we were at that point, we're like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I'm exhausted. He's the one who would talk us down and say, okay, let's work through this. What is the base problem? What are the steps that we can take to fix this problem? And it was having someone that we could go back and talk to who had been in these moments with us and had also been through it themselves in their own business, who was now in a much better position with their business, who could talk to us and help us through it. That was one of the most invaluable things that we chose to do.
Yeah. Well, and for a business coach, so obviously it's been a huge net positive. Do you still have this business coach, or have you gotten to a point where in your business you kind of know what you need to do?
So we still are part of this group.
Okay.
And we're actually part of the higher tier of the group where we don't get the weekly coaching anymore. But if we do have an issue, we can call any of the guys up and talk to them, any of the people from that mentorship. And then we also get free access to the conferences ourselves. We often take our team to the conferences to help them learn some of these concepts that it took us a long time to learn. And so we definitely are still part of that group because it makes a huge difference. We don't have a lot of friends who are business owners. We're starting to grow that in our area a little bit, but for a long time it was the friends that we hung out with at these conferences who had this business mentality. Those are the ones that we really needed to spend more time with. It really made a big difference in our ability to keep going because we had this other community that we could pull from emotionally.
Yeah. Well, and again, if you don't have that, I mean, it's tough because if you're talking to people that don't have that same mentality, you either get the deer in the headlights, which I get it. I mean, it's totally understandable. If you've never run a business before and you start explaining what you've just told me, like I can dance with you, but maybe a lot of your friends, they just look like it's literally a different universe. But then you also get the unspoken resentment. You know, like everyone wants you to do well, but not as well as them.
Yeah, a little bit. Or you get the people who they don't run a business, but they know everything that you should be doing.
Of course.
In that business.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
You have to learn how to nod and kind of accept that they care, but not take their advice too seriously. Yeah,
and there's a balancing act too, because like not all of our friends run businesses, and I'm very fortunate that a lot of my all of our friends do not fall in that category of, they don't want you to be as successful as them or something. Like they just want you to succeed. Mm-hmm. And every once in a while I'll talk to some of my buddies and they'll say, hey, you can tell who's genuine about it, because they'll say something like, I obviously don't do this, but have you ever thought of this? And it's like, okay, it's genuine. Every once in a while I can get nuggets, but then you get the people that come in, and again, those people are no longer in our lives, but they almost say, look, this is exactly what you need to do. And it's like, well, you've never really done it. So I don't really know how much I'm going to take from that. But you nod and say yes and smile, kind of like what we're doing now, and you just kind of move on. Well, so, for you, once you started realizing that you were going to make it, you talk about now you've got all of these benefits, the business coach and all of that. What would you and your husband give yourselves credit for, not from the business, like the most important things that you did like independently on your own as far as the next step, saying, hey, I didn't call the business coach to, open a 401k or something. I did that like on my own. What were the best business steps you guys took to get to where you are today?
I would say we did a lot of personal work and building our own leadership skills and learning how to be not only owners of a business, but now that we have a team, we have employees, how to run a team of staff members who also believe in what we're doing, but learning how to be leaders to them has been, when we started focusing more on that than on even just the business aspect of it, when we started working on ourselves and our own mentalities and our own leadership skills, our business exploded. That's when we were able to go from one location to 2 locations, and now we're about to be at 3. Yeah. And we just opened our second location 3 years ago, and the third location honestly was supposed to be open last year, but due to some of the city constraints, there were some building issues. So we've actually had our team prepared for that location for over a year now. And so once we started working on ourselves and our ability to work with the team and lead other people, that's when things really changed.
Interesting. Yeah, dealing with permitting and government officials can be just a joyous occasion. We're dealing with that with our remodel right now, and that's, fun, but that's just like, I don't want to say it's just a home, but when you're dealing with the business side of things, it is a whole nother can of worms. So I'm sure you're getting a lot of therapy from that, which I totally get. So talk to us about your business today. So how many employees do you have? I'm just curious.
We have 15 employees.
Okay. Awesome.
And plus the 2 of us.
Okay. Wow. And so you have 15 employees. How has in Chris's role, your husband's role, changed over the years?
We started out completely hands-on. We did everything ourselves. Mm-hmm. In fact, when we were at the community center, they wouldn't let us keep the mats down. So I would go in. Chris was at work, and I would go in as soon as I got off of my shift, go in and put all the mats down for the whole floor, and then he would pick them back up at night and put them away. So every day we were putting down mats, we were picking them up, we were doing the manual labor for this, and then teaching all the classes. I was taking all the payments, calling all of the leads, everything myself. Now, honestly, I've taken a huge step back so that I have time to do things like write a book and things of that nature, spend more time with my kids. I basically just do the payroll and the behind-the-scenes stuff from my home office. And my husband now, he is the instructor for the instructors. He runs the overall team meetings, make sure everybody's still on track with their goals, and then he'll do trainings with the team members specifically on their own martial arts journeys. He will give them private lessons and help them on their black belt tests and things like that, and teaching them how to do certain business aspects, how to run a booth at a school, things like that. So he teaches them. We don't even interact with the students anymore, except for when it's time for black belt test twice a year. We're both present there during their black belt test.
So how many hours then on an average week do you think you're actually putting into the business?
Into this business,
Yeah.
I probably put in maybe 5 or 6 now.
Holy
at this point.
smokes. I mean, and I kind of had an idea that's where you were going, because a lot of people, and, including myself, I mean, it's a little different with what we do from just a service-based side of things. But, even with that, putting in the hours and hours and hours, this probably ties into the abundance side of things, where you understand to outsource a lot of your time so you can focus on what matters most to the business. In investing, we call that the highest return on invested capital. I think that is, it's truly the American dream. I mean, do you ever pinch yourself just going like, how in the world did we get here?
I'm not going to lie. There are moments where I have to deal with guilt myself. Like,
really?
Yes. And that's another whole mindset from abundance that I've been working on with myself, is that I'm allowed to gain now from all the work that I put in before.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, man. If I had your story, I would feel as like not like I would have zero guilt, because you've paid it forward. I mean, to the nth degree. I mean, a decade of basically not earning a dime. I mean, really, from what you said, not earning a dime to now going. So how long has it been for your guys' business? 15?
So officially starting in 2010. So it's been
14 years.
About 14 years.
Yeah. I mean, these last 4 years, obviously you've reaped the fruits of your labor, which a lot of people go, 4 years, that's a long time. But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, you guys have just scratched the surface of success, and you should not feel guilty about that at all. So if you ever feel that way, you let me know. And if anyone says to you, man, you should feel really guilty, well, you know enough to do, deadly things to them. Just end it. Now, before we close it out, I have a couple questions for you. So where do you see your business going over the next 10 years? Like, what's the main goal?
So my husband has some really lofty goals for the martial arts school. He has this whole goal of he wants to have 35 schools over the next several years. And so our tree of team members is definitely going to be growing. My goal is I want to be more involved in helping train the team on things like mindset. But then I would like to step back and focus on my writing and things that I have always loved to do, but I always put them on the back burner because, they weren't making enough money. Mm-hmm. Well, now I can focus on these things that fill my inner need.
Yes.
And make myself a happier person, and he can continue to build his schools because that's what he always wanted.
Yeah.
And so I will say I probably put in about 5 or 6 hours a week. My husband definitely puts in more than that, but that's in large part because this is his dream, and he is very excited to keep growing the school. And now I have other goals and dreams that I'm kind of breaking away and chasing.
Yes, which gives us a little teaser into what made you initially write your book, The Abundance Habit.
When we would go to these conferences, it's, we've been going for almost a decade now. And when we first started, we were like bottom of the barrel. We were just desperately trying to glean as much information as we could. Now, when we go to these conferences, we have people who seek us out and are asking us questions and want to know more about our story. They're asking us for advice on how to handle certain things in their schools. And I love to read. I've always been a voracious reader, so I have certain books that I'm just like, oh, well, you should read this book and you should read that book. And I've seen a lot of them, like, when you start suggesting some of these books, their eyes just kind of glaze over.
Oh, yeah. You know it's done.
Yeah. And I do understand some of these guys have a lot of wisdom, Napoleon Hill, Jack Canfield, some of these guys, they're very, very intelligent, but their books are like huge, and you could use that for martial arts.
Oh, you could kill someone with that book. Yeah.
So I understand when you're not as into reading as I am, that can be really overwhelming. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to take the little steps, like first step, and condense it down into something that was a lot easier to digest, a lot easier to get started. So some of these people who were like really overwhelmed by the idea of mindset training and changing how you look at things from scarcity to abundance, I wanted to make it a lot simpler. Like, this is the first step. This is how you get started. It's a very easy to get through length, I think.
Yes.
And not only that, it was, for me, it was stuff that I was already teaching our team members, our managers. We've had training sessions where we've talked about most of the things in my book. We've had training sessions with them about a lot of these things. Yeah. There's really only a couple that we haven't breached into, and that's usually like the love, romantic relationship kinds of things. We don't breach too much into that, but whenever it comes to time management, money mindset, self-worth mindset, these things that everyone can benefit from, we were already teaching our team these things. Yeah. So now whenever people come up to me and they ask me questions or they need advice, I can easily say, well, I have this book that's really easy to go through. I can answer your basic questions, but I think you should start there and start your journey.
Awesome. Well, and so leaving our audience with that perfect cliffhanger, where can our capitalizers go to best support and follow you? And then also, where can they go to snag your award-winning book?
I would love to see people on my Instagram. That's where I interact with people the most. And then on my website, if you want to keep up with anything new that I have going on, I'm working on some fiction books as well. It's like a passion project.
Okay.
So anything that I am working on, you can hear about on my website, amandaterryhamm.com. My Instagram is author-artist-Amanda, because I also paint. So those are the places they can go if they want to know more about me or they want to interact with me. And then you can get my book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of the major retailers. You should be able to find it.
Perfect. And is there anything that you wanted to address before we close this thing out? Anything that we missed that you want to bring up?
I can't think of anything specific. We had a great time together. You're really easy to talk to.
Yeah, well, we try our best here at Capitalize Your Finances, and we'd love to have you on. Are there any other inspirational nonfiction books that you're going to be writing in the future, or do you think you're going to take a pause for a while?
I am definitely interested in writing more about business and business principles. And I specifically am really excited about the idea of helping creative entrepreneurs because a lot of artists and authors and people who have hands-on type businesses, they get to hear a lot of the same things that we heard when growing our business. You can't make money at that. That's not going to grow. And so I would love to write a book helping people who are not necessarily business-minded but have a passion for something. Well, this is how you get started, and these are the things that you'll need to know to move forward in your journey. So that will be coming at some point in the future, but I can't tell you exactly when.
Well, I will tell you this, and it's a perfect way to close. When that happens, we will definitely have to have you back on, and as our listeners out. And until next time, keep capitalizing, Amanda.
Thank you so much.
As always, thank you for joining me today. If you have questions about today's episode or any personal finance questions, please reach out to me at Cap and Capitalize on Instagram, Chris at capitalizeyourfinances.com, or via our website, capitalizepodcast.com. If you want more Capitalize Your Finances content, head on over to capitalizepodcast.com and check out our blog, free resources, book, and online course. As always, I'm your host, Christopher Paniotu, Certified Financial Planning Professional, the Cap and Capitalize. And until next time, keep capitalizing.
You should always seek counsel of the appropriate advisor prior to making any investment decision. All investments are subject to risk, including the loss of principal. 401k plan information used is obtained from sources believed to be reliable as of the current date, but no representation is made as to its accuracy and completeness. Benefits may be subject to change at your employer's, the governing pensions, or benefit organization's discretion. Christopher A. Paniotu is a registered representative with and securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Amanda Terry Hamm is not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Capitalize Your Finances.